We've all heard it. Just keep walking. It's been the golden advice for staying healthy in old age. But what if that advice, on its own, is incomplete? What if the very habit you trust to keep you young is quietly speeding up the aging process? Not because walking is bad, but because it's not enough. If you're over 70 and walking is your only form of exercise, your joints might be wearing down, your muscles quietly fading, and your balance weakening, without you even realizing it. In this video, we're going to show you why walking too much, without the right support system, can actually accelerate aging, and what 5 essential movement strategies you must add to stay strong, steady, and independent for years to come. Because the secret isn't walking more, it's walking smarter. 1. Strength training prevents sarcopenia, age-related muscle loss, builds balance, independence, and functional strength. Use resistance bands, bodyweight exercises, light dumbbells. Example: Robert, 74, regained strength through home-based strength training. We've all heard the same advice repeated like a mantra. Just keep walking. For decades, it's been the gold standard for aging well. Doctors recommend it. Fitness trackers celebrate it. And for many people over 70, walking becomes the default and sometimes the only form of movement they rely on. But what if the very thing we've been told to do more of is, on its own, not enough? What if walking too much and walking only is quietly accelerating aging instead of slowing it down? That might sound like a contradiction, but stay with me, because after 70, your body changes in ways that walking alone can't fully support. Yes, walking is good for your heart, your lungs, your mood, but it's not good at preserving one of the most important factors in long-term independence: muscle mass. And the loss of muscle, known as sarcopenia, isn't just a medical term. It's the silent thief that makes it harder to rise from a chair, climb stairs, lift groceries, or catch yourself from a fall. You don't notice it until one day you do, and by then, it's already taking hold. This is what happened to Robert. At 74, he was proud of his daily walking routine: a few blocks in the morning, a loop around the neighborhood before dinner. But gradually, he noticed something strange. Tasks that used to feel easy, carrying a box, opening a jar, standing up from the couch, started feeling harder. He blamed it on just getting older. But when his doctor tested his grip, strength, and leg function, the results told a different story. Robert had been walking every day, but losing strength every year. The truth is, walking doesn't challenge your muscles enough to maintain or rebuild strength after 70. It mainly targets the lower body in a repetitive way, and even then, without resistance, it can't stop muscle fibers from shrinking. That's why the real solution isn't to walk more. It's to add progressive resistance, movements that push your muscles to stay alert, responsive, and alive. Robert began incorporating simple strength training: resistance bands, bodyweight squats, light dumbbell presses. Nothing fancy, no gym, just a few minutes every other day in his living room. And the results? Within weeks, he noticed more power in his step. He could rise from the floor without help. His energy improved. He felt like himself again, not older, but stronger. Strength training doesn't mean lifting heavy barbells or breaking a sweat for an hour. It means telling your muscles, you're still needed. That can be a wall push-up, a sit-to-stand without using your hands, a water jug curl while standing on one foot. The goal isn't bulk, it's resilience. When you rebuild strength, you're not just protecting your muscles, you're protecting your balance, your bones, your confidence. And the science is clear. Strength is directly linked to longer life expectancy, reduced fall risk, better brain health, and greater independence. So if you're over 70 and walking is your go-to, good. But don't let it be your only. If you're struggling to carry groceries, get out of bed smoothly, or stand up from a low seat, your body isn't telling you to slow down. It's telling you to build back what it's quietly losing. Start small. Start light. But start now, because you can't rely on yesterday's strength to protect you tomorrow. 2. Balance and stability. Exercises reduces fall risk, a major injury source in older adults. Walking doesn't train stabilizer muscles. Train balance with standing on one foot, heel-to-toe walking, controlled weight shifts. Example: Edward, 76, avoided a fall and rebuilt confidence through daily balance drills. You've likely seen it in others before you felt it in yourself. How one misstep, one unexpected sway, or one tiny stumble could change everything. Because after 70, the greatest threat isn't weight gain or wrinkles, it's instability. And while walking is often praised as a safe and gentle activity, it rarely trains what matters most: balance. Walking is forward motion, linear, predictable. But life is not. Life moves sideways, tilts suddenly, asks your body to pivot, bend, react. And if your stabilizer muscles aren't trained for that, even a strong stride can be deceiving. This is why walking alone can be misleading. It builds rhythm, not resilience. Now meet Edward. At 76, he considered himself fit. He walked daily, never smoked, stayed sharp. But one afternoon, as he reached to pull a mug from a high shelf, he lost his footing. No one was around. He fell. Hard. The injury was minor, but the effect was major. He stopped trusting his body, started sitting more, avoided the stairs. His world, once open, shrank by habit and fear. His physical therapist explained something most seniors never hear. Balance isn't passive. It's a skill, a trainable one. Like strength, it weakens without practice. And walking doesn't fully train it. What does? Standing on one foot, walking heel to toe, shifting weight slowly from side to side, closing your eyes while standing still. These aren't tricks. They're your nervous system's recalibration tools. Edward began practicing these movements daily, just 5 minutes in the morning while brushing his teeth or waiting for the kettle. At first, he wobbled. But within weeks, his ankles grew steadier, his reflexes quicker. He stopped bracing against furniture. He even returned to gardening, his favorite therapy. Falls are not just accidents. They're often the end result of untrained equilibrium. And unlike muscle loss, which can take years to develop, one fall can change everything in a second: your mobility, your confidence, your independence. The irony, it's preventable. You don't need fancy equipment. You need floor space, focus, and intention. Balance work doesn't make you sweat, but it makes you safe. It doesn't show up in mirrors, but it shows up in how confidently you move through doorways, step off curbs, or walk across uneven grass. The greatest benefit? Peace of mind. Knowing that your body won't panic if it stumbles, that your core and ankles will respond instead of collapse, that your home remains a sanctuary, not a hazard. So if walking is your routine, don't abandon it, but add this layer. Train balance, train stability, train the micro movements that protect your life in the background, even when no one's watching, because strength gets you up, but balance keeps you going. 3. Flexibility and mobility. Work keeps joints supple and preserves range of motion. Walking doesn't stretch key muscles or joints. Include dynamic stretching, yoga-based moves, and joint mobility flows. Example: Walter, 78, reduced stiffness and improved posture through flexibility training. Imagine this. You wake up one morning, stretch your legs over the side of the bed, and try to stand. But your hips resist, not with pain, but with hesitation. You move, but everything feels tighter, slower, slightly rusted. You walk to the bathroom and your stride is just a little shorter than yesterday. No injury, no illness, just less. That's the whisper of lost mobility. And by the time it starts shouting, most people have already accepted stiffness as the price of growing older. But here's the truth. Walking doesn't fix this. In fact, over-relying on walking without counterbalancing it with flexibility and mobility work can actually accelerate this decline. Because walking is a repetitive movement. It tightens the same muscles over and over. It doesn't stretch your hamstrings. It doesn't loosen your hip flexors. It doesn't rotate your spine or open your chest. It keeps you in one narrow range of motion, and over time, that range shrinks until simple tasks like tying your shoes or stepping into the tub feel like events. This was Walter's story. At 78, he walked every morning, a proud routine. But he noticed that while he was still walking, he wasn't turning as easily. His back felt stiff when he reached for his shoes. His knees ached when he sat too long. He thought he needed to walk more. But his problem wasn't inactivity. It was restricted movement. His body had become efficient, but inflexible. That's when his grandson, a yoga teacher, introduced him to dynamic stretching and gentle mobility drills. Not intense workouts, just simple routines that opened up his joints. Neck rolls, hip circles, spinal twists, deep squats supported by a chair. Within weeks, Walter noticed something remarkable. Not just less stiffness, but more energy. Movement felt expressive again, not mechanical. He started reaching overhead with ease, turning quickly without hesitation, getting up from the floor with less effort. Mobility is the freedom inside the movement. Flexibility is the permission to move well, not just to move often. And as you age, that permission must be re-earned, not once, but every day. Walking doesn't stretch you, it locks you into patterns. That's why yoga, tai chi, mobility flows, and gentle stretching are essential, not optional, after 70. These aren't luxuries. They're tools to undo the tension your body accumulates simply by living. Flexibility protects your joints. Mobility restores your range. Together, they keep you from becoming a prisoner inside your own body. So take 5 minutes. Lay on the floor. Stretch your arms. Rotate your ankles. Twist, bend, breathe. You're not doing it to become a dancer. You're doing it to stay independent, to get dressed without a second thought, to reach the top shelf, to garden, to play with grandkids, to live fully in your body for as long as possible. Because motion isn't just medicine, it's memory. And your body remembers everything you stop doing. So remind it, gently, every day, that you still can. Fourth, core and postural strength support spine, posture, and stability. Weak core leads to back pain, slouching, and instability. Train core with posture resets, abdominal bracing, pelvic tilts. Example: Harold, 75, reduced back strain and improved alignment with simple core routines. Let's talk about something walking doesn't directly strengthen, but that affects every single step you take: your core. And by core, I don't mean six-pack abs or fitness magazine glamour. I mean your deep, stabilizing muscles, the ones that hold you upright, steady your spine, and keep your frame from collapsing inward as you age. After 70, posture is more than appearance. It's performance. When your core is weak, your back aches. You slouch, your shoulders cave, and slowly your gait changes, not because your legs aren't strong, but because your frame is misaligned. It's like trying to build a house on a shifting foundation. No matter how strong the walls are, if the base wobbles, everything above it suffers. Take Harold. At 75, he still walked to the corner store each morning, but his wife noticed he was leaning more, his head jutting forward. "It's just habit," he said. But then he started having lower back pain. He'd get tired from standing in the kitchen. He avoided long conversations while standing. He always looked for a chair. That's when his doctor recommended core activation, not crunches, but something far more important: awareness. Harold began doing simple exercises like abdominal bracing, bird dogs, wall planks, and seated posture resets. At first, he couldn't feel much difference, but within a month, he wasn't leaning forward as much. His pain subsided. He stood taller. He felt lighter, without losing a single pound. That's the quiet power of postural strength. It doesn't shout with effort. It whispers with endurance. A strong core keeps you upright. It supports your lungs, your balance, even your digestion. And yet, walking alone rarely activates these muscles, especially if your posture is already compromised. In fact, poor posture while walking can reinforce the very problems you're trying to fix. Strengthening your core after 70 isn't about vanity. It's about staying upright, stable, and functional. It's about avoiding the spinal compression that causes height loss or the tilted pelvis that strains your lower back. It's about making sure you can reach overhead without wobbling, stand for longer periods, and walk without collapsing into your hips. You don't need to do planks on a yoga mat. You need intentional movement. Sit tall and breathe into your belly. Practice standing with your back flat against a wall. Activate your glutes and abdominals when you rise from a chair. These small habits build internal scaffolding, your invisible suit of armor. So, if you've been walking every day and still feel like your energy disappears halfway through, check your posture. Look at how you're holding yourself. Because strong legs will carry you far, but a weak core will shorten every journey. The good news? You can rebuild that strength at any age. And with it, you don't just stand taller, you live longer, breathe deeper, and move better. 5. Joint protection and low-impact movement. Walking alone may stress worn joints after 70. Supplement with joint-friendly movement like swimming, cycling, tai chi, or chair yoga. Reduces impact, boosts blood flow, supports cartilage. Example: Raymond, 77, replaced long walks with low-impact exercises and relieved joint pain. We often talk about strength, balance, and posture like they're the key to aging well, and they are. But none of it matters if your joints are inflamed, brittle, or quietly breaking down. Because your knees, hips, and ankles? They're not just hinges. They're shock absorbers, and walking too much, especially without variety or support, can slowly wear them down if you're not careful. Here's what most people don't realize. Walking still creates repetitive impact. The same step, same surface, same angles, thousands of times per week. If your gait isn't aligned, or your shoes lack proper support, or your cartilage is thinning, as it naturally does with age, this repetition doesn't make you healthier. It makes your joints resent you. That's what happened to Raymond. At 77, he prided himself on his 5-mile daily walks, but then his knees began swelling. He brushed it off at first, until stairs became painful and getting up from a chair involved more sound effects than he'd like to admit. His doctor didn't prescribe pills. She suggested something that felt counterintuitive to Raymond: walk less. Instead, she advised him to rotate in low-impact alternatives: swimming, stationary cycling, even beginner-level Tai Chi. At first, Raymond resisted. "Walking is what keeps me going," he insisted. But after just 2 weeks of cycling and Tai Chi, something changed. His knees felt looser. His energy returned. He even noticed his mood improving, not because he was moving more, but because he was moving smarter. Low impact doesn't mean low results. It means less wear, more care. Swimming protects your joints while still giving your muscles a full body workout. Stationary cycling improves circulation and leg strength without pounding your joints. Tai Chi and chair yoga combine fluid motion with flexibility and breath, offering balance, calm, and power without pressure. Walking is still valuable, but when it becomes the only tool in the box, it wears out the very joints you're trying to preserve. Think of your joints like tires. Every step adds mileage. Rotate them, change terrain, switch gears. Give your knees the softness of water, your hips the stability of cycling, your ankles the alignment of Tai Chi. Even short walks, when combined with joint-protecting alternatives, can be transformative. They give your body time to recover, time to regenerate. They send the message not just to keep moving, but to move wisely. The goal isn't to stop walking. It's to balance walking with rest, variety, and low-impact movement that nourishes your joints instead of wearing them thin. Because your body isn't a machine to be pushed endlessly. It's a living ecosystem to be listened to. So if your knees ache more after long walks, or your hips feel tight by evening, or you've begun limping without knowing why, pause. Then pivot. Your joints aren't asking you to stop. They're asking you to protect them so they can keep carrying you where you want to go. So now you know the truth. Walking, while good, is not the full answer after 70. It's only a piece of the puzzle. If you've ever felt betrayed by your body, like you're doing everything right and still feeling weaker, stiffer, or more vulnerable, maybe it's not that you're doing too little. Maybe it's that you're repeating too much. Because aging isn't about slowing down. It's about adapting, strategizing, listening, walking every day without balance, strength, flexibility, posture, and joint care is like driving a car without ever checking the tires, the oil, or the engine. Eventually, something wears out, not because you stopped, but because you didn't rotate. Let's remember Robert, who added strength training to rediscover power in his legs. Edward, who trained balance and avoided a fall that once terrified him. Walter, who stretched open a body that had quietly started shrinking. Harold, who stood taller once his core came alive again. Raymond, who found freedom not by quitting walking, but by choosing kinder alternatives when his joints asked for rest. Each of them believed they were doing the right thing, just walking. And each of them learned something better. Your body needs diversity. Not just motion, but movement in many forms. Walking is a chapter, not the whole book. To write a story of independence, resilience, and longevity, you must train like your future depends on it. Because it does. After 70, your body doesn't need more of the same. It needs rotation, variation, recovery, and above all, respect. For the systems that have carried you this far, and for the ones that will carry you into what comes next. So if you're standing at the edge of another walk, ask yourself, what else does my body need today? Maybe it needs a band, a balance pose, a chair stretch, a minute on a yoga mat, a slower pace, a smarter step. Because aging well isn't about resisting decline. It's about redesigning your rhythm, choosing better inputs, moving with intention. and letting your body know you still care enough to grow, not just go. The strongest elders aren't the ones who move the most. They're the ones who move the wisest.